Hello everyone, welcome back to my 4-Star Academic YouTube channel. So this series is all about Dart programming language for the beginners, and this is our last course for this series. But I consider to create another series talking about the intermediate level of Dart, something like non-safety and how you can write the extension on the built-in library, and also what's the talking about the maxim, also talking about the string and the multiple thread. Yeah, so please subscribe to my channel and I will continue uploading all the content related to a full stack development. Without further ado, let's get started. So in this lesson, we are going to talk about the functions in Dart. So as you can see here, I already list out all the topic we will cover in this video. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's open the Visual Studio Code, and as you can see here, like before, I have already written down all the content I will cover in this video. So the reason for this, I already talked before, so I don't want to waste your time just watching me typing. I hope I can spend more time on like explanation the code line by line, so you can get more understanding about what's going on and how to use it, right? So first we're going to talk about the function. Function can be divided into two parts. So first one would be built-in functions such as print function we already used before, and another one would be user-defined function. So in this lesson I will focus more on user-defined function, how you can define your own function by follow the syntax I'm going to share now. So back to the Visual Studio Code, you can see the comment I wrote in here. So the syntax for your basic function would be the return type followed by the function name. Remember the function name, we will follow the camel case. The first letter will be small case, and also we have a bracket, and inside the bracket we can define our like data type and with a parameter, and also have a curly bracket. So inside this curly bracket we will write down our function body. So remember, we will need have this semicolon after each function body. Okay, so here is the first example. So how to write our first function. So as you can see, so we have a function n, so followed by the camel k. So and we have a return type. So what's the void? So the void, there are two types. So first one would be a void, which means you didn't want to return anything. So another would be the function. Another would be the object. So either by like an integer, a double, a list, and also if you didn't write the return type, by default the Dart will return dynamic for you. So the dynamic type we already talking about before. So it just simply allow any type in Dart, even the none is allowed. So here we write our function body. So it's simply a print out function. So you can see we can call function without another functions. Yeah, this is allowed. So this is our first function. So let's go to run this code to see what happens. Yeah, you see we call our first function. So how to call your first function? So the function just invoked by using the function name, as you see here. So we write this function name, the same function name, and followed by this bracket, a pair of bracket, and also the semicolon. So semicolon, so we can call our first function. And also if you didn't write, so here is an example about our second function. So if you didn't specify the return type, the DAR will automatically return the dynamic type. So when I move my mouse to the second function, so as you can see, DAR already returned its dynamic type. So in my case, this would be the string, but DAR just give it our like a dynamic type because string is a subtype of this dynamic. So how to run this second function? So just like this first one, and we call its name. So you can see the second function is because we didn't print anything, so you won't be allowed, you won't able to see any like a. So but we can using print statement and put our function inside it, as you can see like this. So and we're going to print the statement inside our second function. You see? Yeah. Okay, we move to the next one. So next one, I'm going to talk the parameter in the function. So as you can see here, the function by default you don't need to pass anything, but you can also pass any parameter as you want. So for example, in this example, add two functions. So what does it do? It just add two just add two to whatever you passed in. For example, this function. So for example, I call this function just like this. I give it like a number 1. So the result will be 3. So the 3 will be printed out in the console. So let me comment out the code. So as you see here, the 3 will be printed out because I add 2. I call this function and I pass the 1 and I print out it will be 3, right? And because so in this one you see the parameter you can specify so which type so it allowed. So for example, so in this case we just allow the int. So for example, if we're trying to pass like a double, so the compiler will produce error. Set the line. See, the compiler wouldn't allow me to do this because the argument type is a double, cannot be assigned to the parameter type in. So what's the argument and what's the parameter? So the argument would be the actual like a literal or any reference you passed into this function, and the parameter, however, just the data type along with it is the variable name. This one is a parameter, and what you passed inside would be the argument, right? So you won't allow, since we explicitly told the function we have int type. Okay, so and we can also write this but if you want to pass double, how can you do this? So you just write the number, because num is the super type of the int as well as the double. So if you write function like this, you could either pass the integer or double into this function. So for example, I call this function here, as you can see here. So I could either pass 2 integer, and I can also pass one double and one integer, and I can also pass like a 2 double, like a 0.2. However, so if you write down something like this, so the return type would be double, right? If you passing 2 integer to this function, so you will return the result will be in, and if you pass the double along with integer, so the result will be double. This one is the same, the result will be double. So let's run out this code. You see, the first one is 3, this one is 3. and this one is 3.2, and this one is 2.2, 3.4. So if another stuff I want to mention is if you only have one line of statement. So if you have a single line of function body, you can use syntax sugar provided by Dart. So just use this arrow and you write the same stuff, but you can ignore this curly bracket and the return statement. Just put this arrow. Yeah, it's the same. So it's the same. So we can call this function. So for example, I just call this function like I go give 2 and sub to 1, and I print it out. So I think result will be 1, right? As you see here. And also because it allow the number type, so I can either pass integer and also as well as the double. Okay, the next one we're going to talk is the name parameter. So the name parameter will be something you write inside this curly bracket. As we know, if we write function like this, so those parameter is required. So if you just write like you want to call the function and you just something like this, you didn't pass anything, so the compiler will produce error that says there are 2 position arguments expected but 0 found. So you need to pass 2 arguments, right? This is required. However, if you want pass, like if you want make this parameter as a optional, so you have a 2 choice. The first one would be this name parameter, and the second one would be this positional parameter. So let's first talk about this name parameter. So you see here, so after Dart version 2.12, by default it is non-safety, so it cannot allow you to define like a variable as a noun. So if you want to declare your variable as a noun, so you just put this quotation mark after its data type. So if I didn't give its value, so it will produce error, so the compiler will be not allowed. So the either way is you can make something like this, or you just give it is the default value, right? So you can also use like this symbol, but I highly recommend you use like this one. So you can do whatever you want, and so let's try to call this function. So the printer function. So let's call this printer function. As you can see here, the first one I just print 35 because those 2 is optional. So you see those 2 is optional. So let me run out this code. As you can see here, so I will print out the 35 over here. Sorry, let me comment out. Comment out this one and run it again. Okay, 35, none, and 1. So it will be print 35. By this, the first one will be 35 I passed in, and the S1 will be now because I make this string default now, and also this one, and this one will be 1, right? Because I didn't give any value, so by default it will be 1, but it's a string type. Okay, and also we can pass something like this, and we can just pass the 35 and the name parameter for the S1. So let's run this code again. So we can see we print out 35, hello, and 1. So which is this one, this line of code. S1 we will passing the hello, right? And the S2 will be still the default value will be 1. So also I can just simply pass the S2 argument. So I think result would be like this result would be 35 as with and hello and 1, right? The string 1. And this one would be 35 and num and word, right? Let's see. So yeah, it's the same as what we expect will be like this, right? Because the S1 you didn't, because in this line of code you didn't pass anything to this S1, so the S1 would be none, right, by default. So and also you pass the word into the S2, so the default value for S2 would be override by what you passed in. So let me come out this code first. Okay, so next one we are going to talk about is the like a position parameter. So unlike the name parameter, you can write this square bracket, and so what you write is those parameter is like optional, right? But you need to follow, but they follow the position. And so let me come out those code and we can see so why we're talking. So if you only pass 35, so it will allow, so the first one will be print 35 and those two is none. So the result would be 35 and now and none, right? So as we can see here, 35 none and now, yes. Okay, so there's this one, come out this one, and we, so I think we expect like a 35 and hello, string hello, and also none for the third argument, right? So let's run again. We can see here 35 hello and none, right? The same we are expect. So if we're trying to write this one, so I think the result would be 35 and hello, string hello, and word. Yeah, so let's run out the code again. You see here the 35 and hello world, right? So this one, the hello would be assigned to the S1, and the word would be assigned to this S2. So you can see what we expect. Okay, so we are going to talk about is the recursion. So as you can see here, so we are trying to calculate 3 factorials, so which is 1 times 2 times 3 will be equal to 6. So how are we going to write the function? So here I just give you a quick example. So first I will be check if the path, the value would be equal to 1. So if it is not equal to 1, so we will return itself times the factorial, we will passing x minus 1. So as you can see here, if we are trying to calculate factorial 3, so we will call 3 times factorial 2, right? 3 times factorial 2. So the 3 times factorial 2 will call 2 times factorial 1, and factorial 1 by default will return 1, right? So it return 1. So 1 times 2 will return 2, and 2 times 3 will return 6. So the 6 will be returned. So always remember to write this base case, so you will not run out like a Stack Overflow. So if you forgot write down this line of code, so your program will probably like run out like Stack Overflow Let's run the code to see if we implement is successful. Yes, you see the sex is printed out to the console. Okay, the next one we are going to talk about is the high order function. So what do we mean high order of the function? So the high order function means you can make the function as your parameter and you can pass the function into it. So for example, so we have the first function would be add number, and we have second function would be add to. So what add to does is you take a number and simply add to into the number we passing in. So for example, if you're passing 1, so you will return 3, right? So if you didn't write the return type, the DAR will automatically return the dynamic type. So, but we know we want the integer type, right? So we can explicitly write down the type we want to return. So you run out this function. So the function will take out every element in this list and add 2 into it, right? Because you see, so you call this function as a parameter, and you took this function and you just call this function by using the element inside this list, right? So for example, so if I give the array like 1, 2, 3, so I think the result would be 3, 4, and 5 because we add 2. Yeah, let's see. Let's run the code and see what's the result. Yeah, you see, the result would be 3, 4, and 5. Another example would be you can pass your function into this for each method. So for example, we want to print out this each element inside this array. So we call the for each method inside this list, and we pass print function. You see, here we print out the element inside this array. Don't worry, we'll get more practice in this for each method. So the next one we're going to talk is the nested function. So the nested function, so it means you can call function inside, you can write the function inside another function and just simply invoke it invoked by its name. So as you can see in this example, we write our outer functions. So outer function would be just simply print out this outer function statement. We also declare our nested function inside this outer function. So, and after we declare, and we just call it immediately, right? So as you can see here, and when I trying to run this line of code, you will see the outer function print out first and the next function. So let me first comment out this part, and let's see. Yeah, outer function print out first and the next function, right? As you can see here. And also you can use like a function. The next one I'm going to talk about is the function closure, right? The function closure by definition is you can return another function. You can inside the function, for example, inside is a calculate function, and you can return another function, and you can store this variable. But don't worry, we'll come back later. So first talk about the function scope. Yeah, after we talking, don't worry, after we talking about the function scope, so we will come back to this example. What is function scope? So like the example I wrote here, and we have the variable outside this result function, and we also declare the same variable with the same variable name, and you cannot declare two names in the same scope, right? For example, this one will be not allowed because they inside the same like a code block, right? But here those are in different code block, right? The first variable will be in this outside code block, and this one will be in the inner code block. So you call this square 2. So the function will be simply return 4, right? As you can see the definition of this square function. So if you pass in 2, it will return false. So after run this function, so the variable will be 4, right? So so I have a question to ask you. What do you think when you're trying to print out this variable? What kind of the value you will have? So let's run out. So in my opinion, I think this one would be 4 and the outside would be still 0. So let's check out. Yeah. So why you are still the 4? Because you are trying to find the closed one, right? Because this one is most close to it. So you will print out the 4. And also because this one inside this code base code block and also inside this code block, so you are trying to find the closed one. So for this statement, he only inside this this code block, the yellow one code block, so you could only access to this variable, so the value will be 0 all the time, right? So after you know the function closure, so let's go back to what we have. Which one? The function closure. Yeah, in this one, the function closure. So you write, you declare a calculate function, and you declare a variable inside this calculate function, and you return another function which reference to this counter value. So let's trying to see what is the result for this one. So you pass the 2 as this base, right? So the value is 2 plus the 1. You see, in this case would be 2 plus 1 would be 3, and next time this one would be 3. So how about this one? So some people might say, oh, you will still be 3 because you call it again, so you pass 2, right? So no, so in this case the result will be 4. So let's run the code to see. You see the value is 4, 3 and 4. How, right? Because you have the reference to this counter, right? The inner function you return will have a reference to this counter. So the last time you call this function, so this counter will be 1, and you call it once, so it will be increased to 2. So next time you call it will be 2 plus 2 will be the 4, right? However, so if we declare, again, right? We call this outer function again, right? We call it outer function, means we create another copy of this counter. So it will start from 1 again. So in this case, will be 1 plus 1 will be 2, and this one will be 3, right? So let's run the code. You see, it's the same what I'm expect will be 3 and 2 and 3, right? Okay, so the last one I'm going to talk about is the anonymous function. So as you can see from the code I wrote, we have a list and contains 3 integer 1, 2, 3, and we're trying to multiply its value by 2. So we write function in this way. So in here we didn't specify its function name. So you see, this one is actually the anonymous function. So it only the syntax for anonymous function is you have a parameter and you have function body. That's enough, right? So if you only have one line of statement, so here is the syntax more easy, right? In this way. So let's print out and see what's the value. So after you run this line of code, you will get 246, right? 246. But this one 246, but you print it again, it will still 123. So why? So because it didn't change the element inside it. By default, it just create another array and trying to manipulate in the new array. So when you print out again, the value will be still 1, 2, 3, right? And this one will be syntax sugar for this anonymous function. As long as you only have one line of function body, you can write this. You can ignore the curly bracket and return statement and just put in this arrow mark, right? Okay, that's all for today's lesson. So thank you for watching, and feel free to thumbs up my video, and I will really appreciate your time and your support. So also I will continue uploading the video about the full stack development, and next series I'm going to talk about is the Flutter. And that's all. Thanks for watching.